Well, Jack, earlier this season, we had Banu on the cast, who famously went on the show to not win $1 million, but 1 million hearts. And I hope that this week, with the letters from home, that your heart opened up a little bit more, because I know this is your favorite episode of the season. Welcome to Survivor Analytics. I'm your host, Clyde. I am the true expert. With me, as always, is the voice of the people, Jack. Jack, how's it going?
This is not... I appreciate the attempted character rehabilitation that you're trying there. You're trying to make me look good and look kind and say, oh yeah, Jack loves it when they get the letters from home. I hate this episode. But let me say this. I hate this moment in this point in the season, right? I am not a fan of the letters from home or the visitors, right? Back in the old seasons. A friend of the show, Carrie, and I were talking during the episode last night, and she said something like, yeah, I always cry at the letters because it's so emotional. And I was like, man, I think something's broken in me because I don't care at all.
Oh, man. Well, do you hate the letters more than the actual in-person family visit?
I don't like any of it. I want them to be on the island.
Oh, you hate them equally.
But let me just say that. Or let me say this. Not a fan of that segment. This was a great episode.
I completely agree.
Episode 12th, by the way, of season 46, if you somehow are tuned in and can't read the name of the episode.
Of course.
Your podcatcher.
But I think this is in the conversation for the best episode of the season. The way that it's edited is very interesting. We'll talk about it later, but it's rare that you see a tribal council where every vote is revealed before Jeff actually reads them out loud.
That was a first for me, I think. And to preface, I feel like we should say this here, because this is the penultimate episode of the season. We're going to run through the episode fairly quickly and then talk a lot about predictions for the finale, because this is crunch time, people. So we're not going to spend a ton of time on the challenges, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
This is going to be like, when you were a kid, did you ever go with your parents to the grocery store right before it was closing? And your parents were like, okay, we got 2 minutes. You need to run and get the peanut butter. Well, not because you're allergic to peanut butter. You need to run and get the jelly because we have 2 minutes and there's one register open.
That would be a sick joke by my parents to say, we have 2 minutes in the grocery store. Go grab the one thing you're allergic to.
You know what's funny is that came to mind completely. Maybe that's what my parents would always send me to get. I don't know.
Oh, okay. I don't think I did that before, but how does this relate? What's the connection here?
So it's like we got 2 minutes. We got to rush through this. We're going to rush through the regular part of the episode and then break down the different potential votes for next week, because this is a finale preview as much as it is a recap of episode 12.
Yeah. And with that, I will also give my finale predictions. Fans of the pod might remember that I correctly predicted Jam Jam as the winner of 44, and I think I got the final tribal council combination correct there. I also got the final tribal combo correct in 45 with D as the winner. So I'm shooting to go 3 for 3 right here. A lot at stake for me.
Huge stakes here. I feel like I should get to make you watch a TV show if you get it wrong or something.
That seems a little bit unfair odds-wise.
I want Young Sheldon revenge here. Maybe you have to watch the Young Sheldon finale next week.
Oh, the finale's next week?
Apparently, there were 12 commercials for it during Survivor. But let's get into Survivor. Let's not dwell on that. I have one thing to open with, and that is the first shot after the recap is a sign from the editors that I am right thematically about this season. It's a night vision animal shot, baby. We've got a snake crawling through the jungle, and it doesn't thematically line up to anything in the episode.
I think it might.
Well, it doesn't. Usually they're close, right? And this one, I think it was just the editors speaking to me and saying, you're right, Jack, we are doing this on purpose. Extra night vision, extra long drone shots in season 46.
Well, I think you're right, because who is the snake of the season? Players constantly go in confessional and say, Venus is a snake. And by putting that snake at the beginning of the episode, it's a sign that the snake is slithering away from the island.
Oh,
and we're left
very nice.
with the final 6. So it's a callback to last episode. I want to say out of the gate that the players on this cast keep stealing my thunder, because Q does a Venus epitaph to
I wrote
open
this down.
one. He says, they say you can see Venus from Earth. We can't see Venus from this camp. which is a good one. I wish I came up with something that creative. I think that's a little bit more succinct than my one I had last week about something about like a day on Venus or something like that.
Yeah, I think you went a little more esoteric than Q did, but I literally wrote down Q is stealing Clyde's thunder. And then we've got a couple interesting things here before we move on to the challenge. The first is who wrote down Kenzie's name. And Ben wrote down Kenzie's name and immediately decides to clear the air and say, look, it was me. I totally blanked. It's my bad. It was a brain fart, basically. And I think it's legit, but it's hard to convince anybody that it's legit.
It is legit. He says in confessional that it was a genuine mistake on his end. And that's my bad. Last week, I gave Ben too much credit because I thought he voted against Kenzie in the event that Venus played an idol, so someone else would go home. In reality, Ben just has no clue what's going on. He's there for rock and roll. He's there to get me some fantasy points towards the end of the season. But I'm of the opinion now that Ben is drawing dead. I don't think there's a single combination in the end game where Ben wins. Same thing with Liz, but I felt like we knew that of Liz a while ago in the season, probably the moment where she screamed about the Applebee's. But this moment with Ben was the real realization that he's potentially a 0 vote finalist at his absolute peak.
And this is something to keep in mind, not for now, I think this is a discussion for our post-season wrap-up, but just to put it out in the atmosphere. Jeff this week cited both Ben's brain fart and Liz's hunger as proof that 26 days is actually more grueling than 39. And in his defense of, we're going to stick with 26, not 39. Something to keep in mind because I don't believe that for a second.
I don't believe it at all. Jeff said that and he walked away and you could hear the change moving around in his pocket. The real reason why they're at 26 days is because it's fewer days of filming, so it generates greater profit in the grand scheme of things. And every fiber of my being wished that Jeff would just straight up say that and be honest about it. Because if he said that, I would understand. I'd be disappointed in production, but like, you got to do what you got to do. Those two things happen. Liz poops for the first time this entire season.
22 days.
Yeah, 22 days. And I don't understand what exactly is exiting her system because she still hasn't eaten yet, right?
She's got her rice. It's the rice.
Oh, I didn't think about the little individual rice.
Well, because she was sharing it with Venus, and now she's had a chance to have a whole portion to herself.
Oh, okay, yeah. So she reached the point where her rice capacity was too high and it had to be let go.
She said something along the lines of, like, I lost 5 pounds, right? So you wonder, was she not eating enough to poop, or was she constipated, right? Was she just backed up?
Oh, it can be like that sometimes. I have seen a photo of Liz preseason versus now, and she's lost a considerable amount of weight. You can tell that the conditions are really wearing on her, as well as Ben, who has night terrors to open this episode.
Yeah.
Once again, Kenzie is the player that comforts him. I'm curious to see how this plays out for the long run of the season. Maybe we get a situation where Ben wins final immunity and takes Kenzie to the end because of that personal connection. Or maybe Ben votes for Kenzie when he's on the jury. But I'd like to think that this dynamic will come to fruition in some way in the lake.
We don't see much of Kenzie being incredibly forward on the tactical end, but we do see so much of her being kind, right? And there's such a play up of that aspect of her social game. And it reminds me in a way of Jam Jam helping Carson build fire. It's a little bit of an emotional boost, right? Hey, remember, viewer, Kenzie's really nice. And so I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on down the line, whether it is one of those permutations you just said, or if it's just like, hey, Kenzie wins by a landslide out of nowhere because everybody likes her a lot. It could be something as benign as that.
And with Ben specifically, if he lands on the jury, his vote is up in the air between Charlie and Kenzie because he's worked with Charlie since literally day one of this season, but he has that personal connection to Kenzie. The edit paints her in a very positive light. She says that she wants to do this not for gameplay reasons, even though there are gameplay benefits. but she does it because she just genuinely connects with Ben on a personal level.
Yeah, she's just nice.
It starkly contrasts how she treats Banu in the pre-merge, but we can look past that and move ahead.
Yeah, well, Banu was annoying and Ben is nice.
Okay.
So, like, it's fine. I'm fine with it. Challenge? Run through it?
Yeah, the reward challenge happens.
Reward challenge. Chinese takeout at Sanctuary. Charlie wins. Liz cuts her foot. There's a maze, whatever. Charlie, after he wins, finds out it's also letters from home. At which point I go, oh God, I don't want to see Liz's letters from home.
Oh, I wanted to see Liz's letters from home so badly. I wanted them to say, "Dear Liz, I hope you won the Applebee's reward."
I had a moment where I was hoping that Liz didn't get to go on another reward just for the trifecta, right? Which is horrible. It's horrible. But there was a part of me that was like, it'd be kind of satisfying, right? Okay, so let's talk about this. Charlie wins. Pick one person. He doesn't know how many he gets to pick, but it's a reasonable assumption he'll get to pick two people, right?
Yeah, at least two.
At least two, one at a time. Who do you pick in this situation? Final six. You've got Q, Liz, Kenzie, Maria, and Ben to pick from.
I think Liz is the safest selection. No one will get mad at Charlie for picking Liz given everything that she has went through, and she's someone that you want to build a relationship with. I would love to sit at the final tribal council with Liz because I don't think she's getting a single jury vote. I think that was a great pick. His second one is Kenzie, which is solid. Personally, I would rather pick Ben there, but I also understand that his rationale was that group of three did not go on the pizza reward last week. So I don't think he burns any bridges by selecting that trio.
The drama that is played up here is there are two parents on the cast, Maria and Liz. He picks Liz. Maria is immediately sobbing because she knows, right? She and Charlie have talked about this for a long time. They are not going to pick each other for reward. That's been established, right? Like when we talked with Austin, they have set these boundaries well in advance.
Yeah.
And it really, really cuts her up that she's not going to get her letters from home. And Charlie goes with Kenzie, and we find out that today, day 22 of Survivor 46, was supposed to be Kenzie's wedding day, and she pushed her wedding back for Survivor.
Yeah.
And so it's really played up as a dramatic conflict in this episode when I don't think it is. As much as it's played up that Maria is upset by this, and obviously she is upset and hurt, she still comes out of it saying, I can't wait for the kids to meet Uncle Charlie, right? Charlie is still a dear friend. She knows it was the right tactical move, and I don't think it affects her strategic thought later in the episode at all.
I don't think it directly impacts it. I still question Maria's decision to go after Charlie this week, but we'll hit on that one later.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
I also wrote during these selections, I wish Charlie chose Ben because I want to know who wrote the letters from home to Ben. I think it might be his band, which would be hilarious.
So on brand.
I will also say that there are two parents on this cast, but soon to be three. Kenzie just announced this week that
Kenzie's pregnant.
She's pregnant, going to be a mother. I think she announced it on Mother's Day.
That's kind of baller.
Yeah, a baller move, and there's a chance that the baby comes into the world with $1 million in the family, depending on how the rest of the season works out. So seems like a pretty sweet deal.
Or however much she's making off her merch sales.
Oh, I didn't know that she had merch.
Clyde, you got to check your phone more, man.
Sorry. What's the merch? What's the theme of it?
It's all mermaid dragon stuff. It's actually
really
it's pretty cute. It's some of the best Survivor merch I've seen. I'll say that.
I'd want to ask her if she designed that merch before the episode aired. Like if Banu told her, "Oh, I gave you your tagline for the season." Because honestly, if she's profiting off of that, Banu deserves a little share of it.
They go on reward. They get their letters. They eat their takeout. I do want to give a little shout out here to the prop department.
I wrote this down too.
The Chinese takeout, white boxes have the, typical red seal stamped on the side, but it's not. It's Survivor 46's logo and geckos, right? In like the classic bright red. A cool little bit of detail there. the other important thing is while they're on reward and they're talking about flipping on Maria, maybe, right? It's the same conversation they've been having. Back at camp, Q and Maria are idol hunting. Q finds the idol.
And in that moment, what did you think? Did you know Q was going home?
I suspected. I was like, there's no way this streak breaks here, right?
It's destiny.
Here was my thought. It was a coin toss between Q going home with it in his pocket and Q winning the game.
What? Like, you thought this was a game-winning move, potentially?
I was like, Q either is the, fifth, fourth?
We had Hunter, Tiffany, Venus, and also Jem in the pre-merge.
Jem.
So he would be the fifth total, but fourth consecutive. Sixth, if you include Randon, who was medically evacuated with the Beware advantage in his pocket, a third of the cast.
He has two options. It's win the game or keep that streak going, right? Breaking the streak and not winning is mediocre. But because he kept the streak up, either winning or keeping the streak going, makes this season more memorable. And so I was like, it's got to be one of those two.
Well, that's actually an interesting point, that playing an idol correctly at this stage of the game might hold even more weight than it does in a regular season, because such a large proportion of the jury knows what it feels like to get voted out with that idol in their pocket. They probably value that play a little bit more than other seasons.
Yeah.
So if there's an idol at Final Five and someone's able to use that correctly, that could have major implications for the end game.
I have one more thing before everybody comes back together after reward. And that is just that Q and Maria go off an idol hunt. Q finds the idol and, by the way, tells Maria that he has the idol. Stop telling people you have idols.
See, I think this is the one time in the season where him telling Maria about the idol could have actually been good for his game. If Maria later takes the targeting of Q seriously, then there's a chance that information leaks back to him. My big takeaways from Q finding the idol, one is that the edit portrays this differently. Like, normally a contestant finds the idol and then we get the scene of them in confessional showing it off and celebrating. But in this one, Q starts celebrating in confessional and he says, I got something in my pocket. And then we see him finding it. So I thought the ordering was pretty interesting there.
Here's the other thing I have to note here. We see the three on reward. We see Charlie, or we see Maria and Q back at camp. We don't see Ben.
Well, yeah, we never see Ben in general. That's the status quo.
Ben is really getting a invisible edit. And at Final Six, that's not a good sign, right? So I just thought that was worth noting, that he is still the invisible Ben, right? Everybody comes back together after reward, and Maria does not tell Charlie about Q's idol. And we basically get this series of confessionals that are intercut of Charlie and Maria. And we get this a couple times before and after the challenge, the immunity challenge, of both of them saying, I don't think the other is going to flip on me. I'm going to flip on them. And both of them saying, I don't want to do it because they're such a good friend, but I have to for my game. Both of them say it over and over.
This kind of transitions well to one of the big questions of the episode, which is it a smart move for Charlie to flip on Maria, and vice versa? Is this the optimal time for Maria to flip on Charlie? And I want to get your thoughts on each of their approaches in this round.
I think the difference is in the relationships they have. Charlie gets very paranoid later on in this episode, that if they flip and Maria decides to gun for him or Ben, she'll rally the girls to her side, which I don't think is a great read, to be honest, because I don't see a ton of closeness between Maria and Liz and Kenzie.
I completely agree. I think Maria's threat level is too high right now for anyone to really want to work with her. I think there's a chance that if Maria lost immunity last week, she goes home, and I'm pretty confident that if she loses immunity this week, she would have went home as well.
So with all that said, I think for Charlie to flip on Maria at 6, to lay the plans down that he is now, I mean, obviously she wins immunity, but the groundwork is laid. And so if it comes up again at 5 and she doesn't win, he's already got that plan in place with a big chunk of the cast, right? For Maria to flip, Maria is really hoping that her deputy Q and they find somebody else who's willing to flip. Maria does not have the numbers that Charlie has. Even though Charlie is not like this leader of an alliance, He just has this band of people, the four court jesters taking down the king. Charlie has the right idea to flip on Maria. I think Maria needs to keep Charlie around.
I agree with you. Kind of going off what you said, if that plan goes through and Charlie goes home, what's Maria's next step from there? Like, she still has Q there, but you need 3 people at Final 5 to make a vote work. Like, I think the incentive to knock out Charlie is to essentially increase your chance at winning immunities in hopes that she can kind of just bulldoze her way to the end.
Yeah.
Because if you knock out Charlie, the other 3 bottom feeders in Kenzie, Liz, Ben probably all band together against Q and Maria from there.
Yeah.
So I think it's a bad move on Maria's side. Charlie, I think it's great to flip against Maria, but I'm worried that we're getting to the point of the season where Maria's threat level is so high that Charlie will not get credited for knocking her out of the game. And the jury will perceive it as, oh, you voted out Maria? That's not a stamp on your resume. Everybody wanted to vote out Maria.
Yeah.
Like, I think there is a sense of finding the perfect time in the game to knock out your number one. And that's going to vary depending on your actual ally. How big of a threat are they perceived by the other contestants? It's looking right now like Maria will be the primary target going into Final 5. I think the only way she makes it to the end is if she goes on an immunity win streak.
Yeah.
And my fear right now is that Charlie won't be credited at all for her elimination.
Yeah, it's hard for it to seem like a dramatic move when she's about to tie the 39-day season record for female immunity wins, right?
Oh, how did you know that?
Because Jeff says it in the episode.
Oh, he did? Oh, I did not see that. That got me so excited. I was like, you know the analytics? Yeah, the record for women is 4 and the overall record on Survivor is 5.
The 4 was set when they had an extra third of the season, right?
Yeah, but I think it's still the same number of like post-merge challenges.
You're right. You're right. But with that laurel around her neck, right? Or around her head, wherever you wear laurels, it's hard for that vote to seem consequential or unique for the ringleader, right? Oh, you shot the tiger that was chasing the villagers. Well, yeah, it's a tiger chasing the villagers, right? It's not like you, that wasn't a strategic, brilliant move. It was just the obvious one. I'm all over the place with my metaphors today, but
no, I appreciate them. I'm down to go to immunity challenge if you are.
Yeah, they jump in the water for some reason, obstacle course, puzzle.
Yeah, there's a balance beam at one stage that Kenzie struggles with. She crawls across it. Kenzie is not the best challenge performer, I've realized.
There was a point in the season where it felt like Ben was going to be a challenge competitor, and he is not.
Yeah, well, the vast majority of the Final 5 are pretty weak in the challenge side of the game. I feel like Maria and Charlie are the only real threats in that third.
Yeah, I mean, it really is those two playing against each other. I mean, in this immunity challenge, at one point there are, or I think this might have been in the last challenge, actually, Maria, Charlie, and Q are light years ahead of the other 3. So, long story short, they get to the puzzle. It's a dolphin puzzle, which, come on, make it a gecko. Like, can we be consistent, people?
We can embrace
please?
the theme.
And Liz gets one piece, and Jeff says Liz has a piece. Mark it down. And Maria goes on a puzzle tear. Ben is far in the lead, and Maria just switches into Rain Man mode and just goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and wins. It was wild.
Yeah, it's an impressive accomplishment. I could sense Carson at home cheering Maria on during that stretch. Throughout the entire challenge, Jeff keeps emphasizing the fact that the Final 5 are all included in the finale of the show.
Yeah.
And that is a fun fact, but Jeff, we can lay off like the self-promotion of Survivor a little bit.
It's bad enough that after each challenge, Jeff films the promo telling people to apply for Survivor, right?
And he does one just for moms this week. I don't know if you caught that.
Yes. Yes, he does. Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Maybe we'll get a moms-themed season, a moms-exclusive Survivor season.
Moms versus dads.
We can get Bruce back then. That's perfect.
Bruce and Liz. That's what we need. Have they ever had a season where there's like a tribe captain elected?
Oh, yeah.
Bruce and Liz.
As the 2 captains, that's insanity. They've done captains and then they do like a schoolyard pick for the original tribes.
I like that. Well, yeah, we've watched seasons where you have to make those judgment calls about who's the fastest or strongest or whatever, right? So I can...
Yeah, they do it in Samoa where the captains are Russell, Swan, and Mick, I think,
yeah.
are the two. But they didn't have any like agency over their actual tribe. They were just picked as like strongest guys there, basically. But enough about that. Let's go back to camp, where there are some big discussions going around. So the two names on the chopping block are Charlie and Q. There's a moment, and we hit on this earlier a little bit, where Charlie decides that he needs to include Maria on this plan. That way she doesn't feel left out. And he'll maintain his connection with her going into the final 5 alongside Ben. And I want to get your thoughts on this, because it seems like Charlie is just unwilling to fully disconnect from Maria in this game.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a paranoia almost, right? He talks so much in last week and this week about how his game is based on keeping his options open, and he doesn't want to close a door. Here we go. Here's another metaphor. You ready for this?
Oh,
you know how do you ever see at a zoo how they have like the different enclosures, different areas for like the tiger, and there's like an airlock system between them? And for the zookeepers to get into one and clean it out, they have to get the tiger through the airlock system. You have to close a door. Charlie's not closing a door. He's letting the tiger. I guess Maria's the tiger.
Well, she was the tiger in the previous metaphor as well.
Yeah. So Maria the tiger is, you got to close the door or she will come back through it and threaten you. Potentially. I mean, for some reason she doesn't, but she could.
Yeah, and I don't understand why he's set on keeping that option open at the final 5. Like, I get it. He just wants to make it to the end. But at the same time, like, your ideal final tribal council combination should not include Maria under any circumstance. Like, you need to be willing to isolate her from a vote, even if that means damaging that relationship a bit in the process.
Yeah.
So when Charlie told Maria that, I thought, bing, this is the moment where Maria will run to Q and say, Q, you got to play your idol. They're coming for you. But she doesn't take Charlie's comments seriously. She doesn't believe that Charlie has the numbers on his side to actually knock out Q. And when I was looking back at this, I think it really reflects Maria's inability to understand her own threat level. Like, I think Maria doesn't give herself enough credit. She doesn't understand that all these other contestants are gunning for her. And when she's immune, they're going to gun for her number 2. So it's a bit of a lack of self-confidence. It also shows to a degree how Maria feels about Charlie, where she's so confident that Charlie is incapable of gathering those numbers. When you combine all of that with the fact that we're at the final 6 right now, Q can only play his idol for this round and the final 5. If you hear Q's name in any sense, the alarm should be going off, and you should encourage him to play it in that situation because the path is so narrow.
Yeah.
This, I thought, was one of Maria's worst looks of the season. I would make the argument that this read was worse than the rock, paper, scissors battle of last week.
It's a worse read, but it's a less visible one, right? It's very visible to the viewer, and it's going to be very visible in hindsight, right? Maria's going, oh God, I totally fell for Liz and Kenzie's nodding and smiling and saying, yeah, sure, we're in to vote out Charlie. She even says it, I think pretty early in this episode, she knows she's a target and people should be gunning for her and she's expecting to have to fight. But she does not think about how she can still be damaged if she's immune. It's like she got the necklace on and went, I'm good. Nothing can hurt me. But she still has support structures to worry about, and she doesn't.
And while I disagree with Maria's read here, I would argue that Charlie's is worse. And that's because of the overall perception around Charlie as Maria's right-hand man. Because if Charlie makes it to the end and he attempts to take credit for the Q elimination, people will say, oh, well, you couldn't even keep that a secret. You leaked it to Maria, and it just emphasizes that image of him as, you know, being Maria's dog and following her and being loyal to her the entire time. So while it's a bad move for both of them, I think it's more likely that this bites Charlie in the butt in the long run. Want to go to Tribal Council?
Let's go to Tribal Council. Couple quotes here. Kenzie calls Liz her cynical grandma who's losing it.
This was incredible. Kenzie's doing this on purpose. Did you pick up on this? She's comparing everybody in the tribe to family members, and she's not doing it like Drew did on 45 to just fill up the airtime. she's doing it to send a message to the jury. She's attempting to make her competitors look worse in front of them.
She calls Maria the aunt. She calls Ben and Q her brothers who don't talk much and bully her. She calls Charlie her dog and Liz her cynical grandma.
And all of those have like a slight negative connotation to it, especially Charlie, who is trying to overcome this perception of being Maria's deputy. When you compare him to a dog, you're really emphasizing that. So
yeah,
I got the vibe that Kenzie is already looking towards the late game, and she's going to do whatever she can before then to knock everyone down a couple pegs.
Another quote, or something to note, Charlie talks a lot, and there's so many shots of Q as Charlie's talking. Like, even in the early parts of Tribal, they are really building the tension between these two and setting it up really well. And then Jeff says, I watch a lot of police interrogation videos. What? Is that a thing that you can... What?
I think he studies those for Survivor. That's his role to a degree, right? It's to ask questions at Tribal Council and convince those players to give up information when it's probably against their best interest. I think that's him studying.
I guess so. That's fair. And then the last thing I have in Tribal is Liz kind of begs for her life here by talking about how little of a threat she is. In front of the jury, spells out why she doesn't deserve to win and why she should be carried to the final. I mean, what not to do 101, right? Like, absolutely terrible move, but not one that demonstrates any less awareness than I would expect.
Yeah, I think you only make that move if you feel like you're in Maria's position and you're such a big threat and you just want to do whatever possible to stick around and lower your threat level. But if you're Liz and you're already kind of perceived on the bottom, you don't want to convince the jury that you also see yourself that way.
Yeah, and she's saying all this and everyone else is going, yeah, we know. Like, no problem, Liz. You got it.
Oh, well, we also got to throw out that Kenzie exposes Ben at the Tribal for throwing the random vote on her. And Ben admits to it and says, I made a mistake there. The two potential 0-vote finalists embrace their roles in this one Tribal Council. But going to the vote, we get 4 on Q, 2 on Charlie. And all of the votes are revealed before Jeff actually walks over with the urn. So in that moment, did you think that Q was going to play the idol?
I mean, I thought they did a great job of managing the tension here because I didn't. I felt pretty comfortable that he wasn't going to. But to be honest, I was on the edge of my seat more than I have been in a long time for Survivor. I mean, it had me like glued to the TV. And I was just waiting to see what happened. It was great. And I can't believe he didn't play it, to be honest. Like, I'm shocked.
Yeah, I think this might be the most egregious missed idol play of the entire season, for the reasons I said earlier with it being the final 6. I have a theory that he was holding that idol in the Q skirt. I think it was in the front pocket there the
it's
entire
not a theory.
time.
He talks about it multiple times.
But Q gets voted out here 4-2. The only people that vote against Charlie are Q and Maria. The important note is that this is the first time the entire season where Maria is not a part of the consensus plan. The only player right now to be a part of that plan in every Tribal Council is Charlie.
Yeah.
Which is a major positive on his resume. And I have a Q epitaph.
Please.
R.I.P. Q. It seems like the Q skirt is now out of fashion.
Good. That's good.
I had to give a shout out. That's kind of his trademark.
Yeah.
Will we see Q play again?
I don't think so.
Really? Wait, why? What's your reasoning?
He's so chaotic that either production will go, we have to have him back, or we can never have him back. I will say this to his credit. In his exit little blurb, I was expecting him to be like furious. In previous iterations of the season, has not taken losses well.
Yeah.
He takes this so gracefully, and I just thought that was really refreshing that he, after being so self-effacing and self-critical through other challenge losses and things, that he's like, all right, I'm happy with my game. I'm sad I didn't play this, but I'm looking forward to going to Applebee's. Good on you, bud. So maybe, I don't know. Do you think, I feel like you think he's coming back for sure.
I think he's for sure coming back. I think the two most likely returnees, no matter what happens in the finale, are Q and Venus. I think they're both firecrackers on the cast that will cause a lot of chaos, potentially in Survivor 50. I think that season might be inviting a good number of new era players, and they're at the top of my list right now.
Okay.
I don't know. I just think Q fulfills something that we haven't seen a lot of in the new era. I feel like we have a lot of entertaining personalities. Like Jam Jam was a very charismatic figure, but that didn't necessarily translate to chaotic gameplay.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that's really unique about Q. And he might qualify as a Meat Boy. He does not win a single individual immunity on this season. And he only wins one tribal immunity, I think. If you count the Mergatory, he wins two.
Mm-hmm.
If Survivor's looking to cast people and they want to have a certain number of Meat Boys there, you could technically throw Q in, but I would argue that he is not a challenge beast.
I think that's fair. So do you want to do winners and losers and then go into the preview?
Let's do winners, losers. I have a feeling there's a chance that we land on the same side for this. We'll have another winner-loser eclipse.
Who's your winner?
My winner is Kenzie. Do you also have Kenzie?
No.
Okay. I'll provide my reasoning. I think Kenzie was in the middle of these two groups between the Q vote and the Charlie vote. I think Kenzie and Liz were the true decision makers here. On top of that, she goes out of her way at Tribal Council to diminish the reputation of the other players. And I think she's set up very well going into the final five, where Maria is clearly the biggest threat in the game. And once Maria goes out, Charlie is the next biggest at number 4.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she's well positioned. And even though she's not perceived as big of a threat, I think she has a decent chance at beating Charlie, and we'll talk about that later. So Kenzie is my winner.
My winner is Charlie, because I think while Kenzie and Liz could have been making that decision, Charlie has so successfully woven the narrative that he and Maria aren't close that they don't consider it for a moment. We don't see a single confessional of them considering flipping on Charlie. And so I think that was a great play. I think the fact that Charlie comes out of this with, he told Maria, he can look Maria in the eye. And we had a moment in this episode where Maria is like, I don't want him to look me in the eye because I'm lying to my closest ally, right? Charlie never lied to her. He thought about it, but he never did.
Do you think that Maria-Charlie relationship can rekindle at the final five with Charlie now knowing that she casted a vote against him, or is the bond broken?
I don't know. I'm excited to find out. I cannot tell, to be honest with you.
Okay. I'll also say that this is the third consecutive week that you've given Charlie the winner.
I'm high on Charlie. I mean, when we get into the preview and the permutations of the final tribal, I'm high on Charlie, but
he's a big Charlie guy.
Who's your loser?
My loser is Maria.
Okay, same.
Loses Q, her number 2 ally in the game. She's left out of the vote. And I think the only way that she makes it to the final tribal council is by winning the immunity challenge at 5 and then winning the challenge at 4 or winning firemaking. Like, I don't see a world where she is vulnerable at 5 and somehow survives that round. But with that said, I think she has a lot of winning stock. So it's a balance of the two factors.
Do you have an honorable/dishonorable mention?
So I didn't write a dishonorable. You tell me your honorable and I'll come up with the dishonorable in the meantime.
My honorable is quite simply the prop department for the Chinese food props. I just thought that was a really cute little detail. They didn't have to do that, but it was pretty fun.
I'll give the dishonorable to Ben's band, who could have been featured in the Loved Ones letter, and they missed out on the free publicity in the eyes of the public.
I mean, fair enough. All right. So, crunch time here. There are 10 possible permutations of the final 5, 10 possible final tribal finalists.
Well, 5 potential finalists, but 10 different combinations.
5 potential finalists, 10 potential combinations. And the question is, who has the best chance going into the finale of winning Survivor 46? How do you want to do this?
So let's start by just saying our breakdown. So my breakdown in the 10, I have Maria winning 6 of them, meaning she wins the game if she makes it to the end. I then have Kenzie winning 3 and Charlie winning 1.
Okay. Meanwhile, I have Charlie winning every single one he's in.
Yeah, so all 6.
I have Maria winning 3, and I have Kenzie winning 1. I think you and I both have Kenzie winning the chaos option. And that chaos option is Ben, Liz, Kenzie, right? Neither Maria nor Charlie make it to the finale.
Neither one of us have Ben or Liz winning this season. I think the worst thing that can happen in the finale is both of them making it to the end, because then the final tribal council will be just a formality. Whoever's in that third seat will likely win, and we'll just be sitting there, watching the speeches, knowing the outcome already.
Yeah.
But there's some very interesting possibilities on the board. So I can share my screen, and we talked about this before recording, and we think that the most interesting possibility is the three elites all making it to the end. I think it's pretty unlikely that it actually works out that way, but it's still something that's fun to talk about. And that is Charlie, Kenzie, and Maria all in the final tribal council. So here is those three, and we got 8 potential jury votes, and we can kind of walk through them one by one.
I think we're going to have to put this up on our YouTube for sure. We're going to have to clip this section and put it on YouTube, because I think this visual is too good to not put up somewhere.
So let's walk down the line. First juror we got is
Soda.
Where do you think Soda votes in this combination?
I have Soda going to Maria, simply because I think Maria will be able to talk a little bit more from the heart. And I think Soda is a very empathetic person who, unfortunately, we don't get any strategic talk from Soda, right? She's in the jury when she never really went to much of a vote, never really had any strategic commentary. So she's such a kind person that I'm thinking she will be swayed by emotional appeals.
That's an interesting take, because I think Kenzie is a better social player than Maria so far this season.
I don't think it's about social play, though. I think it's about an emotional appeal at the end.
Okay.
And Maria saying, hey, I'm here with my closest ally, who I betrayed at the 11th hour, who didn't take me. I didn't get the letters from my kids, right? I think there's something to that where it won't be a, here's my social resume. It'll be a, I'm a tough mom and I made it to the end.
I agree with you that Soda votes for Maria. My main reasoning for that is Soda is the first juror. So I think she will be relying on the stories of the other jurors more than anybody else, because I don't even know if she really interacted with Maria that much. I think they were on the same tribe at the split tribal council where Soda goes home, but they didn't have a lot of time together on the island. So I think those players that go to the jury towards the end that will hype up Maria will influence Soda.
Yeah.
Next one is Tevin.
I think Tevin goes Charlie.
I said Tevin voting for Maria because the two of them were aligned in the Soda vote at the split tribal council.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. Go for it. You're right. Because here's the thing. On these two, right, Soda and Tevin, I really struggled with anticipating them because they've been gone for so long, right? And it's hard to gauge how their priorities will have shifted after a week at Ponderosa, right? And that's just the kind of peril of trying to make these predictions at this stage, where like when we get to the Bens and Liz's of the world, it will be a little bit easier.
Oh yeah, do you want to toss Ben in for Kenzie right away? Is that a lock? Okay, maybe not.
I have Ben going Charlie.
You have Ben going Charlie? Kenzie comforted him during the panic attacks.
Yes, but Kenzie doesn't have a resume, and Ben...
Do you think Ben cares about a resume? I don't get the vibe that Ben cares about a resume.
I'll say this. We do see the conversation where Charlie goes to Ben this week and says, hey, I want you and me to make it to the end. I'm worried Maria is going to rally Kenzie and Liz against us, right? We see that conversation that indicates at a larger Charlie-Ben bond, right? They've been together since day one. I think there's something there, but it's whatever you want to do here.
No, you fell to me for the Soda one, I think. I'll fall to you for the Charlie one. I am making it clear, though, that I do disagree with this.
So it's 2 Maria, 1 Charlie so far.
Tiffany, can we agree, is Kenzie, though?
Yeah.
That, I think, should be one of the biggest locks on the board. They've been aligned the entire season on the original Yanu tribe, worked together, and even though Maria was responsible for Tiffany's elimination, I think Tiffany will fall back on her OG in Kenzie. Who do you want to go to next?
Let's just take out Liz because she's in the bottom there. I think Liz is going to go Charlie because of the reward.
Oh, that's a very fair point. I didn't think about that.
Liz doesn't care about resume. Liz is petty. Maria worked with Q forever.
Liz agrees at the reward, though, that Maria is the biggest threat in the game. Do you think she would go back on her word if she were on the jury?
See, this is something interesting. When people praise threat levels while they're still in the game, I struggle to take that as a indication of voting inclination after the fact. Maria kept Liz from eating.
Yeah, that's fair. I think she might hold a grudge. Would you consider Liz for Kenzie then?
No, because Charlie took her to get the letters from home.
Okay, I think I agree with you. I'll put Liz in there for Charlie. Next, I think Q. I feel pretty good about Q going to Maria, right?
Yeah, I completely agree.
Okay, I think that's another one of the bigger locks.
So we're at 3, 2, 1, 3 Maria, 2 Charlie, 1 Kenzie.
And the season comes down to Hunter and Venus.
I think Venus goes Charlie.
I agree with you. I watched Venus's exit interview, and she was very positive in terms of Charlie's whole resume in that interview. So I think she really respects the game that he's played in that second in command role. So now the season comes down to the vote from Hunter.
Or 3-1, Maria, Charlie, Kenzie. Hunter, does he go Charlie, Maria, or Kenzie?
I have a feeling that you'll say he'll vote for Charlie, but I think he votes for Maria here. And part of the reason for that is two of his closest allies, the people he's probably talking to the most at Ponderosa, in Tevin and Soda, are voting for Maria. And I think the three of them will come into agreement.
To defend my honor, I have Hunter going Maria.
Really?
I do. Every time.
So Maria wins in this scenario. A 4-3-1 for Maria, 3 Charlie, 1 Kenzie. I can tell you when I ran this individually, I had it as a 4-2-2. The only thing I had different was Ben voting for Kenzie. But we agree that Maria wins in that scenario. So congrats to Maria winning potentially the most difficult final tribal council combination. We knocked out that one, and then we can do one battle between Charlie and Kenzie, and then one battle between Kenzie and Maria.
Okay.
So this first battle is Charlie versus Kenzie versus Ben. We could have swapped out Ben for Liz in that third seat, but hey, you can only get one of them.
I don't think a single vote goes to Ben here.
Yeah, I don't think a single one does either. The only difference there is where would Ben vote if he was on the jury in place of Liz, but that can really go back and forth. We can do the locks. Locks first, Tiffany to Kenzie, Maria to Charlie. Any other locks?
I think Liz is a lock for Charlie here.
Really? Okay. Oh, because of the whole food reward.
Yeah, I think the food reward, and I don't think Kenzie's done enough to sway Liz, and Liz is such an emotional player. I think Tevin and Hunter both go Charlie. I think Charlie's got a better resume. And I think those are both players who care about resume.
Especially if Maria goes to the jury, I think she will be campaigning heavily for Charlie in that situation. I think it'll be one of those situations where Charlie could walk into Final Tribal and potentially blow it if he doesn't distance himself enough from Maria, because she'll have the jury moving toward him on his side. So you want to put Hunter and Tevin to Charlie?
Yeah, and honestly, I'm trying to gauge where Venus goes. I think Q goes Kenzie.
I agree with you. I think Q won't factor in the strategic side of the game as much. I think he'll look at Kenzie and think like she's one of like his first friends on the island. They worked together on the original Yanu tribe, and that will have a large impact on his decision.
So what we have left, we got 4 on Charlie, 2 on Kenzie. We have Venus and Soda left. I'm trying to think if Venus had beef with Kenzie or Charlie ever. And I don't think she did.
She only had beef with the people on her original tribe.
Yeah.
But I still think Venus would vote for Charlie in this situation based on that same exit interview.
So then it's 5-2, and it doesn't matter where Soda goes.
It doesn't really matter where Soda goes. I'll tell you that in my original creation of this one, and I do still stand by this, I had Kenzie winning, but I figured at least for this exercise, we can put Soda up here with Charlie because all the other nominees went with Charlie.
So Charlie beats Kenzie if it's Ben or Liz, right? Because Ben or Liz doesn't matter, right? If Ben or Liz are finalists, it becomes a two-way race.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
But I think that's how it will likely end. I think there will be a 0-vote finalist on this season, as there always is with these 3-person final tribal councils. Like, we watched China over the summer, and that is one of the rare instances where all 3 contestants that make it to the end are in jury votes. Typically, you have one person that's just completely out of contention.
So now, looking at just a Maria Kenzie?
Yeah, this is our final one that we'll walk through. It is Liz versus Kenzie versus Maria. And we'll go to the locks as we always do. Tiffany voting for Kenzie, Charlie voting for Maria.
Because I think in the inverse, I think Charlie going to Ponderosa, he's going to do a lot of campaigning for Maria.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe Ben does some campaigning for Kenzie. Maybe.
But I don't know if Ben's say will hold as much weight as Charlie's on Ponderosa. Can we agree that Ben goes to Kenzie then?
Yeah, I think Ben goes to Kenzie in this.
And now it's a 2-1 in favor of Kenzie.
Venus goes Kenzie.
You think Venus goes Kenzie?
Yeah, Maria told Venus off. Venus is never voting for her.
Oh, you're right. And then Q goes Maria, though. I think
Q goes Maria.
We can agree on. So right now it's a 3-2, 3 on Kenzie, 2 on Maria.
It's all the Namis.
I would argue that the remaining 3 all go Maria in that situation.
I think they do too. I think it ends up being a 5-3 split, 5 on Maria, 3 on Kenzie.
But overall, a lot of entertaining potential final tribal council combinations. I felt
good
like
options.
When you compare this to last season, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can actually see you, Jack.
Oh, hi.
Yo. But when you compare this to last season, I felt like we were so confident that if Dee makes it to the end, she's going to win, and it's not going to be particularly close. And in the end, when Austin got 3 jury votes against her, we were surprised that it ended up, with that tight finish at the end. This is a season where I feel kind of the opposite, where I'd be surprised if we get like a 7-1 or an 8-0, as long as we don't get one of those combinations where Ben and Liz make it to the end. If we have 2 legitimate contenders, I think it'll be at least somewhat close.
Yeah, I think it'll be close. I think it'll be exciting. I think it'll be entertaining, for sure.
And with all that said, you want my prediction for like the winner?
Yeah, you need to lock in your prediction for this order of events here.
So Kenzie's going to win. I think I've been saying that since around the final 10. I've seen this edit. I think Kenzie's perfectly in line to win the season. I don't think there have been many negatives on her resume that have been highlighted, whereas a player like Charlie has been presented as Maria's number 2 in terms of like the power ranking of the cast. So I would say at Final 5, I'll go with Charlie winning immunity and sending Maria home at 5. At Final 4, I'll say that Charlie wins immunity, takes Ben to the end, and then we get this underwhelming Kenzie-Liz fire-making duel. You might remember earlier in the season, when Liz got her individual portion of rice, she was there struggling to make the fire, and I think that was foreshadowing her future fire-making loss against Kenzie. So then Kenzie walks into the final tribal council. She has a bunch of close connections on the jury with people like Tiffany there, and she just defeated Liz in fire making, which was this exciting moment. And at the end of the day, the jury gets caught up in the social side of the game and the flashiness of the fire making challenge, and they vote for Kenzie to win. And I think I have it as a 5-3 jury vote over Charlie. I can go back and check. And then I will hop on this podcast that same week and be furious, and I will claim that Charlie was robbed of an ultimate strategic win where he dominated the game in that deputy position. And I walk away from this season happy with the overall product, but disappointed with the outcome.
I mean, that's quite a prediction. I like it. I think there's a definite chance for it. I think any of the 3 we've talked about have a reasonable chance at winning. There's a chance that's the final 3, and it's a really exciting final 3, and it all comes down to their speeches. They've all gotten such a big edit. They've done a really good job mitigating that, balancing that expectation. I think Charlie's going to win it. We've seen Charlie vote really well. We've seen him play a Carson-esque game, right? Being the hub of the wheel, managing all his spokes. He has kept his close ally. He might flip on her next, right? And he'll be kind of justified in that, right? He could say at Final Tribal, I kept my alliance with Maria till the end. I kept it quiet. She's sitting right there. She's nodding. She tried to get me, and I flipped on her when I had to because I knew she was such a great player, and I could not be sitting up here with her. That could be the option. That could happen next week, and it's fantastic. I mean, I'm excited.
Well, you're predicting a Charlie win, but who's he sitting next to at the end in that win?
He's sitting next to Ben and Kenzie in that win.
So we have the same final tribal council combination, but just a different outcome then.
Yeah, because it all depends on the story, right? It could all change based on how next week goes down. But as it stands now, I think he could do it.
I'm rooting for that combination then of Kenzie, Charlie, Ben. I'll be texting you in that moment because then it'll be the true test of who is the true expert, who is the voice of the people, who correctly predicted this. But that's everything I have for this week. Any last remarks for you?
I think that's it. I'm excited. One more live episode.
Yeah, after that, we'll be taking a blast to
off
the
to Cook
past.
Islands.
Yeah, we'll be covering Season 13 Survivor Cook Islands in the off-season. So if you want to purchase Paramount Plus and watch alongside us, you can use the promo code.
Use promo code Survivor Analytics. I don't know if there's even a place for promo codes on Paramount, but
help us get the money back that Carson took from Jack when he bought from his merch store.
That's such a deep cut at this point. But tune in next week for the finale of Survivor 46.